Well, hello. My name is Nicole AmelioCasper. I'm with Blue Goat Cyber. I'm the public relations manager, and I have Trevor Slatter here. He's the CTO at Blue Goat Cyber, and Rick Turner, who is the VP of MedTech Solutions. So thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to be talking about Device Talks Boston.
It's a great event. We went to the one in Santa Clara earlier this year. And then Boston's a great city. Obviously, that's one of the main hubs for the global medtech market. So a lot of interesting conversations to be had, a lot of interesting connections to be made. It's going to be a fantastic event.
Awesome. What about you, Rick?
I'm excited as well. It's my first Device Talks, but from what I've seen online and done some of the research, it's kind of a really big conglomerate of medtech industry leaders, as well as people from startups all the way through well-established companies, trying to really and truly disseminate some of the information on how to really be successful from a medtech device standpoint.
Yes. So why do you think this event is important for Blue Goat Cyber and potential partners?
I think, sort of tying into what Rick said, this is a big conglomeration of everyone in the medtech scene. So a lot of manufacturers, a lot of regulatory professionals, contract manufacturers, innovators, everyone's coming to this sort of event. And, as a medtech service provider, we want to find these manufacturers, we want to find these contract manufacturers, these innovators to help guide them along their path and help them find the cleanest path to success when it comes to their cybersecurity and software. And then meeting with regulatory affairs professionals, CROs, companies like that, where we don't have that direct area for client relationship. It's more of a partner relationship. And so there are lots of fantastic companies out there and amazing people that we always love to meet at these events, always love to find a way to have some collaboration opportunities down the road.
Let's talk about your talk. So what are you going to be talking about at your presentation?
So definitely very excited for that. We're going to be talking about how we can go through the FDA or just general regulatory cybersecurity process. In general, the different regulatory pathways still have a lot of overlap when it comes to cybersecurity. And so we're talking about some of the key bits of information to know, some important pitfalls and some misconceptions that can come up with regulatory cybersecurity. And then just sort of the best way to get through this and talk about some examples of where we've seen some areas for improvement or some success stories on the best way to get through that regulatory process.
Mm-hmm. I know you've talked a lot about this, all the different misconceptions on the Med Device Cyber podcast. Can you speak on some of the misconceptions, when talking to partners?
So one very important topic that I'm excited to go into is sort of road mapping cybersecurity. When should it be done? And it's a little bit of a trick question in my mind, even when I say it. There is no specific time you design cybersecurity in right here. And I think that's a big misconception that a lot of innovators try to do. They try to pick out a block of time and say, this is our cybersecurity time, the same way that you can do successfully for human factors or clinical studies. You pick a time, you do all that testing, you have the documentation, and you build it into your submission packet. For cybersecurity, even directly in the FDA guidance, it says you start with cybersecurity, you build it into your product, and then you finish with cybersecurity. So it's a long process. It takes up, it's something you should start with, it's something you should end with, it should be built into every decision. And so I think that's probably the biggest misconception that I'd like to clear up is cybersecurity can't be a one and done process.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
Piggyback off that, I think Trevor's talk hopefully will be a springboard from an awareness standpoint. I think, as you mentioned, Nicole, a lot of misconceptions out there, but it really comes down to being able to understand that cybersecurity in this day and age, especially with a lot of the innovators from a medtech standpoint, adding connectivity, adding software, you have to start thinking about cybersecurity earlier in the process. And it just hasn't been something that is on their board or list of things to do. And so hopefully, our presence there will bring about some awareness in terms of when to get that initially started and not to wait till the end and try to bolt it on at the end, but actually to start with the design phase of all of these really wonderful, innovative new technologies.
Designing medical devices is expensive. There's no other way around it. And there are tons of things that are far more expensive than cybersecurity that innovators are happy to jump to do. What I think the big problem is that innovators, and it's getting better. It is admittedly getting better, but it's still a pretty big issue. They're just not aware that cybersecurity is even a requirement until they have their regulatory consultant come to them and say, hey, what did you prepare for your cybersecurity documentation? And they realize they don't have anything. They have to go back. They have to try to retrofit all of this onto their product. And so I don't think it's necessarily like any worse than dealing with another part of the regulatory process. It's just not something at the forefront of anyone's mind. And so finding a good way to roadmap or build cybersecurity into your roadmap, not only does it help in the eyes, a lot of VCs are starting to get wise towards cybersecurity and they want to see that as part of a roadmap, but it also just prevents all of the overruns that can happen at the end if you forget about it.
What do you think the biggest takeaway will be at this conference for you and other participants?
I always just like to get a pulse of the industry, see what people are working on, see some of the latest trends, and then, of course, going to some of these talks and hearing what other people think about different regulatory approval processes or different device manufacturing techniques. Of course, seeing whatever the latest AI thing is always really exciting. So just a lot of cool innovation and a lot of really brilliant minds put together out there.
Well, I think that covers everything. Do you all have any other thoughts?
Just excited to see everyone out there in Boston and looking forward to the event.